The views and opinions expressed on the following program may not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or board of Hope Media Group and KSBJ. It's what's happening around us, in our town, suburb, city, in our community. It's Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Well, hello and welcome to Community Beat, where we're keeping you tuned in to the topics that are impacting our local communities and helping them thrive. I'm your host, Kim Kasi McKee, and today we'll be talking about an organization that is near and dear to our hearts, Star of Hope Mission. Joining us today is Scott Arthur. He's the Director of Public Relations for Star of Hope. Hello, Scott, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it is my honor and my pleasure, and we miss you at Star of Hope. We really do.
Well, I certainly miss being there, Scott. I have nothing but pleasant memories for being a part of Star of Hope's family.
Well, I guess you're not coming back. I mean, we've kept your office open, but and there's dust on the desk, but we kept saying, Kim's coming back.
Well, I am so flattered, but since I've been gone now since, I believe, 1997, I give you I'm releasing you to go ahead and open up that office.
We can, okay.
But truly, it was just such a very special time in my life and in my career, and I have done all that I could to stay connected in some way, shape, or form through the years. And so just what a gift you've been to Star of Hope. So tell us a little bit about your connection to Star of Hope, because, Scott, I do see you as you're that guy. You are that guy, just such a veteran in the media industry, just a multi-talented veteran of radio and television, and somehow God had your path to cross with Star of Hope, and you have been there and been a gift to that ministry for so many years. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you became so connected.
Well, the answer is God.
Yes.
No question whatsoever. I was in radio. Mm-hmm. I did a morning show for about 18 years here in town, and one of the things I did also was I had a PR firm. And one of my clients was the Hard Rock Cafe back when they were on Kirby, eons ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And it turns out that, they did a 5K run for something called Star of Hope. So I helped them out and, get news coverage, et cetera. And they called me about a week later and they said, we would like to hire you. And I was like, I have a couple of jobs already, thanks. Mm-hmm. But I really like what Star of Hope did. So I found out more about them, and I said, how about if I just become your press liaison?
Okay.
Your media guy,
mm-hmm.
And I'll help you with press releases and things like that. And they said, sure. So I did that while I was still on the air for about 13 years.
Wow.
And I was able to, through the influence of the radio station and, the awareness that we were all getting with radio, that I could call up TV stations and radio stations, and they would help Star of Hope. And that was the beginning of something amazing. And then when I retired from radio, I got they came to me and they said, how would you like a full-time job? And I said, sure.
Okay.
So I've been with them now full-time over 17 years.
Wow.
So I've been on their payroll for about 30 years now. And I have to tell you, when I sat down in my office, which used to be near yours, and I just looked at my desk and I looked at all of the things that I had to do. I went, well, let's see, I'm going to have to maybe do some documentaries. I can do some voice work. I have to put together press releases here. We'll do this, we'll do that. And I just stopped and went, I have been trained for this job.
Wow.
And I just looked up and went, got it. I mean
that. It's like, this is what this has been about, huh?
That's right. Everything
Amazing.
that I have learned over 35 years of broadcasting.
Wow.
In front of the TV and back, on both sides of the microphone, doing everything. I do every day at Star of Hope.
Wow.
To reach out and help Star of Hope help those on the streets.
Beautiful. For those who are listening who may not be familiar with Star of Hope, tell us, what is the mission of Star of Hope?
Well, let me tell you the mission and the history of Star of Hope.
Please do.
Because I have found out that as a PR guy, everybody knows Star of Hope. We have been around for over a century.
Wow.
And everybody knows Star of Hope, and they know that we help the homeless, but they think the homeless is that guy on the street with the sign, work for food, God
Yes.
bless, help, that type of thing. And they think what Star of Hope does is help that guy, overnight, give him a shower and a hot meal and a warm bed and slap him on the back and say, Jesus loves you and we'll see you tomorrow. And that's it.
They used to call it 3 hots and a cot.
3 hots and a cot. And that is so far from what we actually do.
Yes.
We help people with, structured recovery programs. And people don't know that we want to have someone here. Yeah, we'll help you for a couple of days. But whether you be a man, a boy, a single mom, a mom with a couple of kids, or just a single lady, whatever, we are there for you. But we would like to have you for 6, 7, 8 months, up to a year. And people don't realize that. They also don't realize nobody pays a penny. This is all free. Come and get your life changed, and God is going to oversee it. Somebody came up to me a couple of weeks ago, and she was crying. She was just about to go into intake, and she said, I am so embarrassed. I am so lost. My life is I have just hit rock bottom. And one of the people there said, that's okay, because Jesus is the rock.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was like, I'm in the right place. This is great.
Yes.
So Star of Hope has been around for 116 years.
Wow.
Back in 1907, they started. And back in 1907, it was in between 2 world wars. And back around that time, Market Street, where we can all go downtown and say Market Street now, and they got the little bayous. Back then, the bayous were big bayous, and they had big, tall ships there.
Yes.
And that area was a waterfront. And there were a lot of people that just didn't have jobs anymore, and they started hanging around the waterfront and sleeping in doorways and on the streets and things. So we had a Baptist minister who was told by God to open up a recovery center and call it specifically the Star of Hope.
Wow.
So I think back then we had maybe 20, 25 guys in there, and that evolved to the point where we are now today. We have downtown at our men's center, I think it holds about 300, maybe 320 beds right now.
Wow.
And a third of those beds, let's say about 100 of them, are for what we call the rescue. And the rescue is those guys that you see on the streets. And I'm not talking about the guys that are there with the signs. That's their day job. Don't give them money, okay? Really, you're not paying for anything. I know that God wants to put that on your heart and stuff, but honestly, don't do that. But if you see guys that are on the streets, sleeping under the bridges and in doorways and on park benches and things like that, these are the guys that we reach out to on a regular basis and say, hey, do you know about Star of Hope? This is what we can do for you. We can help change your life. Even if you just want to get off the streets and get a shower and come see us. Come on, that's okay. And they will. And once we get them in there and we make sure that they're fed and we make sure that they are aware that we can help them, we tell them about our programs, how we can help them get a job, help them get a GED, further their education, help them get housing, help them strengthen their faith. And it's not just 1 day or 2 days. We want them for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, whatever the programs are. Recovery from substance abuse. We are here for you. So if they come in day by day, there's about 100 beds available. But if they come in for the programs, there's over 200 beds available. And we have guys that go through programs. And then, as you know, they have graduation.
Yes.
They get back with their families. They have a new way of life. Literally, we change lives. And in many cases, we save lives. Now, we also, back around, I'd say about 1980 or so, 87, 88, the nuclear family seemed to be crumbling all around America. There was a lot of divorces and violence.
A lot of dysfunction.
Oh, not at all. And we were having women, single women and moms with kids, banging on the door of our men's shelter saying, we need somewhere to go. So the folks at Star of Hope got together and created the Women and Family Emergency Shelter downtown. And that, of course, just took care of everybody for about 90 days. It wasn't a lot of programs. It was literally a shelter, and it's a reach out, and God hears you, and how can we help you here? And, get yourself together, and then we can go from there. And we also had a long-term area, which was called the Transitional Living Center, which was 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments.
Yes.
So we had the men's center, we had the women and family, children's and family emergency shelter, then we had the Transitional Living Center. And let's see, the emergency shelter, the last 8 years it existed, we were at capacity every single day.
Wow.
We had 274 beds full, and about 100, and I mean 100 people would sleep on the lobby floor. And when I say people, I mean babies, moms. It was sad. It was very sad. So the incredible folks at Star of Hope got together and they said, let's do something different here. So they, for years, worked on a project. And 2 days before Hurricane Harvey, what we did was we morphed the emergency shelter and the Transitional Living Center into one big center called the Women and Family Development Center. And that holds 180 single women and 130 families. There is literally nothing like it in America.
Wow.
A mom can come in there with a couple of kids, and she has been beaten down, and sometimes physically as well as mentally, and we can help her out. We'll take care of the kids. We'll make sure that they go to HISD schools. We'll make sure that they get shoes for school. We'll make sure that they get the proper uniforms and school supplies. Make sure the kids go to summer camp, and just try and forget that they are homeless and make them feel as normal as possible. Meanwhile, mom is going into classes like life skills, learning how to write a check, learning how to balance the books, learning how to make a nutritious meal for her child. You know, there's a lot of generational there. Sometimes we'll see a mom bring in 3 kids, and a lot of times those kids are there because they are checks. They're government checks. They don't like to say that out loud, but it's true. And we know it's generational because just like you, we've been around enough to know that, hey, Mom, weren't you one of the kids that your mom brought in here? Yes, I was. Well, today we're going to stop that cycle. We're going to change lives, and we're going to change your future of your kids as well. That's what Star of Hope does.
Wow. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Scott Arthur, who is the Director of Public Relations at Star of Hope Mission for homeless men, women, and children. And the program is far and wide, literally an opportunity for a hand up for a person to, for their lives to be radically changed in every way. And I'm always, Scott, just amazed at the breadth of the programs that are offered. It just reflects so much thought has gone into literally how do we give people every conceivable tool to be able to get on their feet.
That is very well put, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have a 48-acre campus now where the Women and Family Development Center is,
Yes.
and a few other nonprofits there. We have New Hope Housing. And we call that entire campus a transformational campus. So mom with a couple of kids, once she goes through all of those programs and she's ready, we're going to help her get a job. And by the way, if you have a job, don't leave us. Stay with us, both the men and the women. Get used to the rhythm of a job again, you know, and put your money aside. You're not paying for food. You're not paying rent. You're not paying for your clothes. Put that money aside. So when you are ready to get into housing, the next step, you know, we just draw that money out and give it to you. We have had people leave with $8,000, $10,000, $20,000.
That's amazing.
You know, and then go into housing. And it literally, their life changes and they begin again. And when I say housing, it's usually a government project that we help them get.
Sure.
And it's 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments. And they sign their own lease and, you know, they're on their way.
Many times when people think of the homeless, they do consider a man on a corner with a sign saying something like, we'll work for food. We know that to be panhandling. And you mentioned not giving money to people who are standing under the bridges asking for money. Would you say a little bit about that?
I would be happy to. Let's say that you're in the car, you're on the feeder, maybe at Fondren or Hillcroft or whatever, and you're at the red light. And you look over to your left, and there's this guy coming toward you, and he's rubbing his tummy, or he's got a flag, or he's got a dog, or whatever. Props. I'm telling you, props. I've been out on the streets, I know. Now, this is not 100%.
Sure.
But it's at least 85 or 90%. And they'll come up to you, maybe, tap on the window, and you, being a godly person,
Right.
wanting to share, reach in your pocket, you pull out a $5 bill, and you give it to them, and they go, thank you, thank you, thank you, and they back away. Light turns green, you pull up, and as you're driving away, you feel good about yourself. You feel that God has led you to do that, and okay. Well, maybe God has led you to do that, and maybe that's going to change that person's life, but the odds are no. Stop the car, back up, freeze frame. Where's that $5 going to go? In his pocket. Is that $5 going to go into the bank to help him get rehab? No. It's probably, by the time you reach another mile away, it's going to be given to a guy who's on a bicycle riding around collecting money for drugs. And he's going to deliver those drugs. And that's basically it. You might as well go up to that guy and say, hey, listen, I know you've got an addiction, and I want to help you out with that, and I'll see you tomorrow. And now those are harsh words, but that's the way it is.
Yes.
All right. Now, I would like to recommend a wonderful book. It's called Same Kind of Different as Me. And if you haven't read that book, the movie's good, but the book is amazing. And it's written about a gentleman who kind of adopted a man on the streets. And I got to know both of those guys personally.
Wow.
And I asked once the gentleman who was I guess maybe the hero of the book, so to speak, who had been on the streets for years. And I said, should I give money to those guys? And he said, generally no. He said, but if God puts it on your heart to do that, then you do it. And the minute you let go of that bill, you let go of everything else, because that's between God and him.
Okay, that's good.
And he has another story that he was walking along the streets of Dallas with his new benefactor. And basically, as a veteran of the streets, he's introducing him to all his friends.
Okay.
And he comes up to one guy, and, the gentleman who wrote the book was a millionaire. So he's walking around with $20 bills, and he's given $20 here and here. Comes up to this Hispanic gentleman who was leaning up against a pole. And he said, well, sir, what can I do for you? And he went, I just want some cash. And he's kind of got a alcohol breath. And so the guy looks over to the man who is introducing him, and he says, whatever. So the guy gives him $20, and they start to walk away. And the gentleman who has been on the streets all his life said, turn around and look at that guy. What do you see? He says, well, I see a Mexican who is drunk, and he's going to get drunker because I just gave him $20. And he said, that guy came to America a couple of years ago. He's been panhandling, but all of that money that he makes, he sends back to his family every single week. He said he had a stroke 2 months ago.
Okay.
Which is why he's talking that way. And all he wants is money to go home. And you judged him.
Wow.
So there's so many different ways to look at it.
That's right.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
right. Yes.
You just never know.
That's so true.
Now, to get back to your other thing, we have 2 facilities, and that's all we have. And the reason I bring that up is because most people think that Star of Hope is a national organization.
Right.
And we are not. All we do is we work in Harris County. We have now expanded to Fort Bend County, to Montgomery County, and to, let's see, there's probably another one of the counties out there that we're out there. We're out there reaching sometimes into the fields, into the woods, to the folks who are on the streets, and we're helping them, bringing back to Star of Hope and helping them with their lives.
So we mentioned the fact that it's not a good idea to give people money. But as you mentioned, some people are moved by compassion and they do want to do something.
Yes.
So what are some healthy ways to help a person on the street?
To literally help, well, 2 ways. One is you can do it one-on-one. You can put together what we call hope bags.
Okay.
And that is basically a quart Ziploc bag, and you put a pair of socks in there. And you put, maybe some crackers and maybe a washcloth and some deodorant, little travel toiletry type things. Anything that you would reach in the morning, whatever you need to do to get up in the morning, they don't do that. So even the guys on the streets not only the ones sleeping under the bridges, but the guys that are, panhandling out there. They all need that. But what you need to include is a note of encouragement. God loves you. It's okay. There is a future for you. And that helps them a lot. And of course, when the cold weather happens, blankets, all sorts of blankets. A lot of people think, my gosh, you've been asking for blankets for a whole week. Don't you have enough blankets? Never.
Right.
These guys are going to take 2 or 3 blankets just to sleep on. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to have 2 or 3 blankets to put around themselves. And then they'll have a couple more because those got soiled because of, the precipitation and all like that. And of course, we need coats. And just the opposite when it gets hot. We need water out there.
Right.
We need prayers. We need love. And you can go to sohmission.org, and help us out that way. Of course, financially is always right. Money is always right, shape and color and size. But, and again, I say, we do not charge a penny. We don't charge a penny. We are one of the oldest and largest homeless providers in America. We reach out to over 1,000 homeless men, women, and children every single day and don't charge a penny.
Wow.
So we need people to help us out.
Yes. Speaking of helping you out, one thing that I've always been very impressed by are the many ways the community can come alongside and help Star of Hope with various skills, and whether it's a whole group, a Sunday school class, or if it's one person and their teenager who would like to get involved. What are some of the ways that people can help in tangible ways? If
you go to sohmission.org, our website, you will find a volunteer area.
Yes.
And it's a pull down, and it's got a whole page full of volunteer opportunities.
Excellent.
And basically you could get people in right here. You can get people to line up and let's just do an assembly line of those bags I was describing. And then show up with 500 of those bags with lessons from the radio station. That's great. Mm-hmm. Or we could have maybe somebody from a smaller corporation or maybe just an office who decides they want to take one afternoon off and go and help us feed. We serve a little bit over 6,000 meals a week at Star of Hope. Well, 3 meals a day, 365, 2 facilities. And we need people to help us give out that food. And then other opportunities are what we always call, probably the most popular, is Snacks and Good Night. And this is the one where we can actually involve the entire family. And that's where the fact that you can, just bring mom and dad and the kids and possibly bring snacks for maybe 300 people. Get just a bunch of cookies or whatever you want and bring maybe some orange juice or Gatorade or whatever it is. And what happens is that you get to serve them right there with those folks, one-on-one, just before they go to bed, usually about 7 o'clock or so. It's about an hour or so after dinner. So you literally are able to bring the children in and let them experience and say, look, see that child over there? They don't have a home. We're going home. They don't have a home. And so it's a great, it works both ways.
Absolutely.
They feel the love and the kids feel an understanding of the fact that, they have it good and others don't, and they can do something about it.
That's awesome. So, Scott, I can only imagine the stories that you have experienced through the years. Can you share maybe a couple stories with us of folks who've been helped through Star of Hope? My
favorite story, and one of my jobs is we have an annual banquet.
Yes.
And we also have an annual fashion show and a golf tournament, and they asked me to find stories among our current clients or our alum to tell people so that we can actually get those people to tell those stories. And it's always very extraordinary and compassionate. But my favorite one is I heard through the grapevine that a gentleman had been at the men's center downtown, and he had his son, and he was taking his son on a tour, and he was saying things like, 12 years ago, I lived here, and they changed my life. And I went, I need to meet this guy. So I met him. Really great, wonderful man. It was sort of like an African-American Santa. I mean, he was just, what a great attitude. He was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to him and I said, well, tell me your story here. He said, well, I was a sergeant in the Air Force. It was the Gulf War time and I was stationed in Germany. And he said, I guess I was very good. I was one of the top sergeants. And he said, basically that was it. But I was in some sort of an accident and was awarded $60,000 and I've had a honorable discharge. So I came back to Houston and put it all up my nose. He said, I just on drugs.
Wow.
Matter of fact, I ended up going around the country just being totally stoned. And I came back to Houston and slept outside of the Men's Development Center down at 1811 Ruiz. And finally they brought me in. And I said, okay, well, and he said, and they changed my life.
Wow.
And he said, I was there almost a year. I took all these different programs. And now he is a pastor.
Okay.
Has a couple of kids and can't wait to tell anybody about Star of Hope.
Wow.
But that's not the story. I'm having lunch with him as he's telling me this. And we're at a shishi fancy restaurant. And there are 2 forks. And I said, and I was just kidding him. I said, oh, that outside fork, that's for the salad. He said, yeah, I know. He said, I took the course. I said, what course? He said, the courtesy course that we had to take to meet the Queen. I said, excuse me? The Queen? You mean like Her Majesty the Queen? Well, yeah. You failed to mention that before.
Right.
Well, he said, well, while I was one of the top sergeants, as a reward, they sent a lot of us to actually go have tea with Her Majesty the Queen at the palace.
Wow.
So I said, let me get this straight. You had tea with Her Majesty the Queen, and then you ended up living in a cardboard box next to the Greyhound bus station in Houston. He said, yes. And you can go on the web on sohmission.org and see his story too.
Wow.
But I will never forget that. That's how high and how low you can go in such a short span of time.
Yes.
And it we change lives, literally.
That's right, because a ministry like Star of Hope is right there during those times of transition and our crisis to help people to rehabilitate or do whatever it takes to lead a productive life going forward. So that's why we love this ministry. And we just want to encourage you to connect with Star of Hope in some way. Connection may be you let someone else know about the resource that is available to them. I can't tell you, Scott, how many times through the years I've been able to tell a person that was in recovery or a person that's struggling to get on their feet because of some crisis that happened in their lives, to consider a place like Star of Hope that has a proven track record of not just providing a hot meal and a place to lay your head, but an opportunity, literally, to get back on their feet and to go forward in life, sometimes on higher levels than they had ever been before, to do even better. And some people become volunteers, become donors, become staff members for the organization. And so we just want to encourage you to connect with them, consider supporting in some way, maybe volunteering in some way. To find out more opportunities, as Scott mentioned, go to sohmission.org. Anything else you'd like to share, Scott?
No, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking you should be on this side of the microphone. Boy, you talk good.
I've learned from the best.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you, Scott, for the wonderful work that you are doing through Star of Hope Mission. And thank you for joining us today.
It's my honor.
And to our listening audience, thank you. We hope you'll join us again next week for another edition of Community Beat. I'm Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Thanks for joining us for Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee. Join us every Saturday morning at 5:30 on 89.3 KSBJ.